What is going on, y'all? Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Here in today's video, I will be explaining and talking about how realistic the rumor is of Deshaun Watson requesting a trade from Houston, or if he will request a trade from Houston, and all the details about that. Now, before I get into this video, I was going to ask everybody, if you have not already, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. I'm dropping a lot of content now. I just had a talk show before, and that was the only thing I was really posting because I was busy with school and stuff like that. But now that I'm out of school and really focused on YouTube, I'm dropping a lot of videos. So I would really appreciate it if you guys could give me a subscription. Now, getting into this video, first off, I wanted to state my opinion on Deshaun Watson. If any of you watch my talk show, you know how I feel about Watson. I believe Watson is the most talented quarterback in the NFL as a whole. Um, Patrick Mahomes has to be the best quarterback in the NFL. Everybody knows that and gives him that credit, but I just feel like Watson is the most talented. Now, if you took Deshaun Watson and put him on the Chiefs right now, that Chiefs team would be just as good as with Patrick Mahomes. Now, don't get me wrong. This is no slander of Patrick Mahomes whatsoever, because Patrick Mahomes could get it done with anybody. We haven't seen it yet just because while he's been in Kansas City, he's had all great weapons. But I truly believe, with the throws he makes, Patrick Mahomes can get it done with anybody. However, Deshaun Watson can make plays. He gets out of the pocket and makes plays. He can run. He can throw. He really can do it all. And that's why I'm not quite sure about why these rumors are going around about Watson being traded from Houston. We've seen in the past Houston make some horrid trades in the offseason with DeAndre Hopkins. They got David Johnson, who had a relatively good year for them, but DeAndre Hopkins is DeAndre Hopkins. There's no reason any team should ever trade a talent like that. When you draft wide receivers in the first round, you are hoping to get a guy as skilled and as talented as DeAndre Hopkins. So just, to me, it's kind of a waste to end up trading him for a second round pick and David Johnson, I believe. That just doesn't make any sense to me, but they moved on from the GM and coach. That's out of the way now. They've hired a new GM in Nick Caserio, who was a long-time New England Patriots personal executive. And anytime you get somebody from that group in New England in the front office, usually you'll get a good guy, just because we all know what that franchise has done in the past. And Caserio's been there, or was there, for a while before taking the general manager job in Houston. So I think that's great for Houston. That is definitely a great start. But to go from that, you have some pieces that are good. It's definitely tough not having that third overall pick because you traded it for Tunsil and Stills, who's not even on the roster anymore. So it's definitely tough not having that pick, but I think they are moving in the right direction with this signing. They have not signed a head coach yet. We do not know who that will be. There are a lot of good guys out there, so we never know who will be signed. I think Bieniemy would have been a great option there. I think he would have been able to do incredible things with Deshaun Watson, but I'm not exactly sure if they've interviewed him or not, or who they have interviewed. But I think you have to get a good offensive-minded head coach for this team, because this offense could be playing like the Chiefs caliber or even higher with a guy like Deshaun Watson. And if they would have had that third overall pick this year, they could have added even more, but they don't, so we will not be talking about that. But yeah, like I said, I just don't get it. I do not know how real these rumors are, and that's why the main reason I'm doing this video, because I've read like different articles on each side. Some saying Watson wants out, and then Watson had the tweet that went pretty viral, and everybody read it and saw and really put that towards him wanting out of Houston. But then there's also reports there's no possible chance that the Texans trade him, and Houston wants to keep him. But if Watson asks for a trade, we could end up seeing him traded. However, if Houston ends up actually trading Deshaun Watson, which I don't believe will happen, those Texans fans will be furious, and they have every right to be in losing your two best offensive players probably in franchise history. Um, it just insane. Now, where they stand right now, they could be a competitor next year. I'm not saying they will be. I'm not really giving a prediction on it yet, but anytime you have a Deshaun Watson player, a player like Deshaun Watson with that caliber talent, you got to win games. And it was just disappointing. Everybody saw the video of J.J. Watt and Deshaun Watson walking off the field, and J.J. Watt apologized to Deshaun Watson and basically said, we should have got you 11 wins. This team should have had 11 wins this year. That's just a fact. Like if you watch that offense play and see the things Deshaun Watson can do, there is no excuse to not win more than 3 or 4 games. And it's just sad to kind of see a franchise who was in the playoff last year, had pieces, ended up trading them, don't understand it, to now go to, which would have been the 3rd overall pick, but they do not have it now because of the trade, as we said before. It's just definitely disappointing. If you're a Texans fan, I couldn't even imagine what it's like being a Texans fan right now. However, on the other side of that, there should be some hope because you have, like I believe, the most talented quarterback in the NFL in Deshaun Watson. Coming out of Clemson, I was a huge, huge fan. I was a lot younger, but I was a huge fan of Deshaun Watson. I really thought he was going to be a great NFL quarterback, which he has been. So you get those picks and you draft guys. They have produced everything for you. So for you to end up trading him, I just couldn't believe it. Now, like I said before, if he actually does request a trade and they trade him, if a guy requests a trade and won't play for you, you have to trade him. We saw that happen in Oakland / Las Vegas with Gruden and Khalil Mack. A lot of people attack Gruden. I'm not a huge Gruden fan, but I was kind of taking a side here. Khalil Mack refused to play for them and said he wasn't going to play. So they had to trade him. You can't really get mad at a team for trading a guy who refuses to play for him. It just wouldn't make sense for them to keep him around and just waste money and just have him sit there and not play football like he wants to. But in Houston, it's a little different because Houston kind of went a different process following last year's playoff. Definitely after last year, they were a second half, a mediocre or pretty good second half from being in the AFC Championship. But, they blew that big lead to Kansas City, which all football fans know of and saw because it was just incredible what Kansas City did in that game to come back and take down the Texans. But in that game, we also saw how good this Texans offense could be. Another main reason I believe Deshaun Watson is not asking out of Houston is because towards the end of the year, we saw that Will Fuller will be a free agent in the offseason. We heard Deshaun Watson saying, how much he wanted Houston to bring Will Fuller back to this team. So why would he come out and say that and try to get Will Fuller back to this team and then all of a sudden say, yeah, I want to be traded? That just wouldn't make sense. However, the new GM and the front office needs to go out and make sure they sign Will Fuller because in a franchise quarterback like Deshaun Watson, you need to get his guys and the guys that he wants on this team. Will Fuller was having a pretty good year before the whole PED thing and where he got suspended, which it happens. Hopefully it doesn't happen again and he can play a full season next year and really give Deshaun Watson the help that he needs. But like I said before, Deshaun Watson asked them to go out and sign him. They need to go out and sign him. If they do not end up signing him, that could make him even more mad. And then we definitely could see him requesting a trade. But Houston's learned. I hope Houston has learned in the past. Some stuff is just not smart. And losing a guy like Deshaun Watson would be incredibly, incredibly not smart. But Brandon Cooks is another guy that Deshaun Watson had, it seemed like, a great relationship with, at least on the field. Brandon Cooks was making a ton of plays, especially once Will Fuller went out with the PED suspension. We saw numerous games of him having 125 plus yards and multiple touchdowns, which is incredible. And Brandon Cooks, his whole career, has had games like that and has been able to make plays. So if you get him, you get Will Fuller back, you add somebody. I think they have a second round pick this year. I'm not exactly sure, but maybe draft somebody to shore up that offensive line, get some good guys on the line because Watson cannot be getting hit the way he has been, and go out and sign an offensive lineman. That should be another thing on their list that they need to do right besides re-signing Will Fuller for Deshaun Watson, signing a good veteran offensive lineman. I would say draft one, but like I said before, they traded that pick to Miami for Tunsil and Stills. So you can't draft a great offensive line prospect in the second round or third round, maybe. That would make sense, but you just can't in the first round because you don't have the first round draft pick. And on top of everything, you cannot have a quarterback like this getting hit this many times. As mobile and dual threat as Watson is, he already saves the offensive line with a ton of plays he's already made this year. And meanwhile, let me take you back. Deshaun Watson also led the league in passing yards this year, which is just insane. To think Deshaun Watson threw for more yards than Patrick Mahomes did and all of the weapons Patrick Mahomes had this year, that's just crazy. Now, granted, Mahomes did not play in one game this year, so that could be a reason because, he sat out week 17, and Watson played all 16 games. But still, at the end of the day, Watson was first place alongside a ton of other quarterbacks who played 16 games. Mahomes only played 15 and still was second place, which just shows you who Mahomes is. But at the end of the day, Watson led the league in passing yards, and that just is insane to me. He does not have much time. Tunsil needs to step up for them. He didn't have a terrible year, but that team needs Tunsil to be great because that's Deshaun Watson's back right there. You cannot have him get hurt, but the interior of that offensive line really struggled, and that is what killed them. We saw in a ton of games Watson just getting wrecked in the backfield and him hopping up and continuing to play. And then he would grab his hand. He got poked in the eye. He would grab his hand would be hurting, and him continue to play for that team and not pull out or walk off to the sideline and complain. No, he just kept playing, put his head down and played, and was playing through injury and was doing all of this stuff. That shows you what kind of guy Deshaun Watson is, and he's willing to take hits for this team, but they need to give him their all as well. J.J. Watt on the other side of the ball, I think, is the same way as Deshaun Watson. But J.J. Watt has really talked about more to the media how much he wants these guys on this team to really buy into winning and make winning mean something in that locker room, because we know Deshaun Watson wants to win and we know J.J. Watt wants to win. But some other guys on that team this year definitely seemed questionable with their efforts. And they started off the year against the Baltimore Ravens and the Kansas City Chiefs. Kansas City Chiefs week 1, Baltimore Ravens week 2. And they lost both games, but at that point, they only lost to the Ravens by like 14 points, I think, and played a pretty close game with the Chiefs throughout most of the game in week 1. They showed what they could do in both of those games. And, then throughout the year, they continue to lose. And they definitely weren't tanking because there was nothing to tank for. You don't have a first round pick. And on top of all of it, these guys are getting paid to play. All the players on that team should want to win as much as anybody else. And like J.J. Watt said, it seemed like some guys on the team just didn't want to win and weren't really playing for anything. I understand Bill O'Brien was definitely not a good at all fit there. I think he really hurt that team. He played a huge part in that trade with DeAndre Hopkins for David Johnson, who, don't get me wrong, David Johnson played well this year for Houston, but imagine Deshaun Watson this season with DeAndre Hopkins and what that duo would have done. We saw Hopkins play with Kyler Murray, who played so well in the beginning of the year and just didn't play well at all in the second half. So Watson played good all year, all 17 weeks. Watson got what he needed to do, did what he needed to do, and just played hard. So that still is going to be a big topic talked about. I know I said I wasn't going to talk about it, but it frustrates me as a football fan. I'm not a Houston Texan fan, but it frustrates me. That trade really just frustrates me because I would have loved to see DeAndre Hopkins and Deshaun Watson playing together throughout most of their career, because that could have been one of the greatest duos of all time. Now, looking forward to next year, I'm not, like I said before, I'm not exactly sure how the Houston Texans will do. Uh, but if they do not sign Will Fuller this offseason, I could be making another video sometime soon saying Deshaun Watson will be traded, because I think whether or not they re-sign him or do what Deshaun wants them to do this offseason will eventually lead to him being traded, but I just don't see it for now. And in the future, also, it's going to depend on what head coach they get. I said before, I would like to see them sign Bieniemy. Will they do that? I really am not sure. I'm not exactly sure what they're going to do, but I think they have a great GM coming from New England. Caserio, he's been around guys who have developed great players. He's been ahead of a coach who's one of the greatest NFL coaches of all time. So I think he knows who to hire and can see some guys that might kind of replicate Bill Belichick, not be the exact same. Like I said before, I would like to see them get an offensive-minded head coach. Meanwhile, Belichick is a defensive-minded head coach. But what they do, I am not exactly sure. But like I said before, in Caserio, I think they got a great GM. And, it's definitely looking good for Houston if they can keep Deshaun Watson around because of just him solely. Or other than him, they need to get some help. They need to sign some players. They need to do some things. But for them, having Deshaun Watson is always the most important thing when it comes to an NFL team. My last point, if Deshaun Watson were to be traded, there are a ton of teams that right now, if they had Deshaun Watson on their roster, would be a Super Bowl caliber team. A few, for example, the Washington football team. Alex Smith has had a great story, an awesome comeback. But if you replaced Alex Smith with Deshaun Watson, I think everybody would be talking about that Washington football team as maybe the favorite to win the Super Bowl, if not the favorite to win the NFC as a whole, just because Watson would make plays for them that nobody can, just because he's a dual threat quarterback and can do every single thing. Washington's got an all right offensive line, which would help him as well. San Francisco was another team. San Francisco now, they were beat up all year. Jimmy Garoppolo was hurt, but I think Deshaun Watson's 10 times better than Jimmy Garoppolo. So adding a guy like Deshaun Watson to a team like the 49ers, the Washington football team, the Chicago Bears, there's a number of teams. The Saints, if Drew Brees retires after this year, which a lot of people think will end up happening. Really, there's probably 20 teams in the NFL right now that are looking, saying, we wish we had Deshaun Watson. The Pittsburgh Steelers, the Indianapolis Colts, once Phillip Rivers retires, which could happen after this year. I'm not exactly sure what is going to happen there. He got into the playoffs. What will he do? I'm not exactly sure. But, I know another team that I would love to see Deshaun Watson play for is Matt Rule and the Carolina Panthers. Now, ultimately, I want Deshaun Watson to stay in Houston because I think he could do some amazing things there. But if they don't do what he wants them to do, then he needs to ask for a trade. But yeah, like I said, in Carolina, I think Deshaun Watson would be dominating defenses with the weapons they have. Robbie Anderson, DJ Moore, Christian McCaffrey when he's healthy, all of those guys, Curtis Samuel, all of those guys on that offense playing with a quarterback like Deshaun Watson. Teddy Bridgewater is good, and he had a pretty good year. But Deshaun Watson, like I said before, is just the elite caliber that will change any team he plays for. And like I said, 20-plus teams could be looking to get Deshaun Watson if he actually requests a trade. So overall, looking back at everything, I do not think there is a chance that the Houston Texans will end up trading Deshaun Watson. I think when it comes down to it, he is not actually going to request a trade. I think these rumors are just kind of trying to get stuff started and get some NFL buzz as a whole. Like I said before, we've seen some Houston Texans beat writers who know way more than most people do. Deshaun Watson won't be traded. That's what they're saying. But you never know what could happen in the future. So if he is traded, I stated the teams I think he should look for when being traded. Now, that is it for this video. Thank you guys very much for watching. It really means a lot. If you like this video, please leave a like, a comment, and a subscription would really mean a lot. I could really appreciate it if you guys would subscribe to this channel. I'm going to be putting out a ton of NFL videos throughout the next few weeks and even in the off season with some NFL draft stuff following the draft, and then all the way into the summer in the preseason, all stuff like that. I'm really excited about this channel. I've got a lot of videos coming out soon, like I said. And yeah, it would really mean a lot if you guys could subscribe. And yeah, look out for the next video. Another video will be coming out soon. So thank you guys very much for watching.